Tensions between the British government and farmers in the United Kingdom continues to escalate. The protesters are planning another major demonstration on Tuesday in Westminster, London, and the Metropolitan Police have now sent a massive warning to the organisers. Welcome to Tusi TV, your global news channel. I'm Maya Tusi, and this is your latest news update from the United Kingdom. The farmers are preparing for yet another week of disruptions in London to send a message to Keir Starmer's government that no farmers, no food message is now being spread around the country and of course the continent of Europe, because farmers in Europe are also fighting against their government and the European Union. There are different battles across the continent. In the UK, what escalated the situation was the policy coming from Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, which is to essentially use inheritance tax as a scheme to take more money and land from the farming communities and the farmers' families. So what we now know is that on Pancake Day, we're going to have yet another protest. The police have now decided to send out a public statement, not just privately to talk to the organizers, but they want to do it publicly to send a message to everybody else. This is, again, symbolic to basically say we are in charge and we don't care if this exposes our own hypocrisy and double standards when it comes to different type of protests. But we have said that, well, you can't bring your tractors to London. And the media are very friendly towards this because they say, well, yeah, it makes sense. Don't bring your tractors, because when you bring all the tractors to Westminster on Whitehall, it blocks Whitehall. That's the argument. There's a problem here because every time we've had farmers protesting in Westminster with the tractors, it didn't really cause any disruptions because they bring in them one by one. They go on Whitehall and they block both sides of Whitehall, which is the exact same thing that any other protest would do anyway. So whether you are using tractors or just people on their foot, then we've had it with the Palestinian protests, we had it with Unite the Kingdom rallies that we've had recently. They block it. They block the roads. That doesn't matter if it's a car, a tractor, or a person. They will block it regardless. Now, if the argument was that the tractors cause trouble across the city, well, that might make sense, but it doesn't, because that's not what they do. They're not like Just Stop Oil. They're not going around randomly blocking random roads. There is an organized protest. They go to Whitehall, they stop there for a couple of hours, and they go. But this is the statement we have from the Metropolitan Police in London and Sad IQ Khan's stormtroopers. Conditions imposed to keep tractors away from the farmers' protest. The Met is urging anyone planning to attend a farmers' protest taking place in central London on Tuesday to leave their tractors at home. Those attending the event will form up in Whitehall at from 11 a.m. with a procession taking place from around midday, heading towards Trafalgar Square, turning right into Northumberland Avenue along the Embankment and back into Whitehall via Westminster Bridge and Parliament Street. Again, a lot of people would say, well, okay, well, it's fine. Just don't bring the tractors. But again, the double standards here is one problem. Second issue is that they could have just spoken to the organizers, because this is going to be a very organized protest, very peaceful as usual. They could have done it privately. We've had the same sort of level of communications between Tommy Robinson's team and the Met Police. When there are conditions or whatever, they arrange it privately behind closed doors, but they want to make a statement publicly to say that we are the authorities and we are in charge. A rally will take place in Whitehall from 1:30 p.m. It is expected to finish around 3 p.m. So it's not even that long. It's an hour and a half. Conditions have been imposed under the Public Order Act, preventing anyone taking part in the protest from bringing in tractors, other than a limited number being arranged by the organisers with the prior permission of the police. Now, they've got the Deputy Assistant Commissioner, Ben Russell, to discuss this, saying that 2 previous protests have taken place in the same area with the same organisers in recent months. The second protest saw a significant number of people attend with tractors and other large farming vehicles. Whitehall was blocked for much of the day, and there were lengthy, significant delays on surrounding roads, which is the same thing even if it's a Palestinian protest, by the way. It is our responsibility to ensure that protests don't cause serious disruption to the life of the community, and we've used our powers under the Public Order Act to ensure that does not happen on Tuesday. We have been in regular contact with the organizers to explain our decision making, and I'm grateful for the positive collaborative approach they have taken. Again, if they were consistent with all the other protests, then everything will be fine. But they're not consistent. So common sense would say, well, yeah, I mean, it's best not to cause too much disruptions in the surrounding areas. Fair enough, right? Logic. But they don't do the same thing with other organizers, the left-wing protesters. The reason they're doing all this is to crush the farmers' protest. So what we have in the West, in a so-called democratic West, is that the idea of a protest and demonstration is legal, is allowed. The whole point of it is that they know in actual dictatorships, you ban protests, they turn into riots, chaos happens. But in our so-called democracies right now, liberal democracies, they tell you are free to protest as long as your protest doesn't actually have any impact, no disruptions, nothing, nobody's going to get annoyed, the government, which, by the way, defeats the whole purpose. The whole point of protests, demonstrations, whatever you want to call it, is to actually cause enough, gain enough attention and cause enough annoyance for certain people. That usually primarily we're talking about the government. So what they end up doing in liberal democracies is they say, well, you can protest, just stay there in your pen, do your thing, and then you can go home now. You've exercised your right. Nobody will care. Nobody would change any policy. But you're happy now? You did your protest? You did your chance? Okay, go home now. Because if you do anything else, we're going to call you a rioter, and you're doing treason. So essentially, protests in the Western world, most of the time in the UK, are pointless because they are organized and they are controlled. Now, the whole point of protest or demonstration or any sort of anti-government movement is supposed to get more attention. So, for example, look at Just Stop Oil and the Extinction Rebellion types. It wasn't even them that started this. It was the others, previous generation, that started those sort of protests. Disruptions, very annoying, causing mayhem. They managed to get the attention, and the green net zero lobbies, with their money, then did the influence inside our government. So they want the farmers to think that, yeah, this is democracy. Go do a couple of chants and now go home now. We know, that's it. We don't really care. Nothing will be achieved without any sort of disruption. That's the point. The conditions imposed under the Public Order Act are as follows. Section 14.3 Public Order Act says individuals taking part in the farmers' protest assembly must not drive or otherwise use their mechanically propelled vehicles without having obtained authority in advance from the Metropolitan Police. And then we have this part saying that, it is a criminal offence to breach the conditions or to incite others to do so. Everything has to be organised. And this becomes a bit of an issue because, again, what is the point of protesting if you're not going to get any attention? If protests in this country, and again, I'm being objective, so that could apply to the right-wingers, the left-wingers, any other side. I'm speaking on behalf of all of them, even the crazy left-wingers. The only way your protest movement could actually gain any attention is if you put the fear into the establishment. If they fear that, oh my God, these guys are going to come out again, it's going to cause trouble. The fact that you have to organize things and get permission from the police and be like, then we can stand there between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, that's not really a protest. That's just a rally. That's just an event. Protests are supposed to be spontaneous. They're supposed to be unplanned. They're supposed to be, without telling the authorities. You get thousands of people to go somewhere and make a point. Go outside Downing Street, go outside Parliament. That's the point of gaining the attention, surprising the establishment, surprising whether you're left wing or right wing. That is a concept. Now, again, in a civilized democracy, if the democratic process is still working, if politicians are actually listening to you, then I would say protests are pointless anyway. If we had that situation, if we had a situation where politicians actually listen to people, right? You wouldn't need to do these sort of things. But we don't have that situation. which means you're going to have to do certain protests. But protests alone won't achieve anything on their own. It has to be combined with many other things in terms of grassroots campaigns, pressures on the MPs, on a local level, national level, media attention, many other things. You have to do lobbying. All these things must happen. But when you have just protests, organized and being given permission by the police, okay, you can stand there for a couple of hours, and then basically they manage to contain it. They are managing to censor you in the name of the rule of law. But the issue that I have is that, let's just say, well, they make a good point about the tractors in London, all right? But there's still double standards, because these sort of rules only apply to one side, not the other side. That's the issue that we have. Now, Gareth Wyn-Jones, obviously one of the famous voices from the farming community, came out to say, these people don't care about the farmers and the people feeding the nation every day. They won't recognize the importance of us until those supermarkets' shelves start to go empty. It's sad. If this government had an inch of common sense, they would realize that farmers are going to have to claw this back somewhere. Where will they? Well, that's the point. It's the products they produce. Food. This is the thing. If farmers are angry, and if the population are behind the farmers in any country, there are so many other ways you can actually do, instead of just basically saying yes to the authorities telling you can stand there for 45 minutes, nobody's going to listen to you, but just do your chance and then get it out of your system, go home. No. If the population of a country are behind the farmers, and the farmers actually need to be helped, then everybody could help them. And that includes a certain level of strike, a certain level of essentially the farmers, the farming community, and supermarkets and farm shops sending a message to the government that if we want to, we can stop the whole country. We can put a pause on everything, on production, on shops and everything else. Until that point, they don't care. Until that point, Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are told in the morning, oh, there's another protester there? Cool, let them do it. Because they're not scared. They don't care. Because they don't feel any threat. If there is no threat of anything, and we're not talking about violence, by the way, we're just talking about actual mechanisms that you can use peacefully in a civil society to actually do that. If they don't feel any threat of disruptions, then, well, they're not going to do anything about anything. Do you really think they're going to reverse their policies just because a few tractors went to central London? We've seen these things for decades and decades. They want to just get it out of your system. By the way, people still have to go out anyway. They still have to protest. It's to send the message to all the other people that we are united. Then that's not really to say that the protest should be cancelled. No. The fact that they are making it organized protest with the permission from the authorities, what to do, what you can't do, this isn't really a protest anymore. It's just an event. It's like a festival. You can't say that, you can't do this, you can't carry that, you can't bring this. The protest is, as a concept, is supposed to be an angry motion that people, a person or a group of people are angry and want to do something that's not conventional. Because you can walk around the pavement, you can walk around outside Parliament on your own or with three of your friends, just chant. You can do that. That's a conventional thing to do. The whole point of protests and protest movements is supposed to be a different thing. It's supposed to be unconventional. It's supposed to be should be an element of surprise. Do you really think people in Iran, when they want to do a protest against the government, they call the Supreme Leader's office? Can we please get 45 minutes outside Parliament to do some chants against you, please? No. Even if they allow them, they're not going to do that. You just get the people out. You protest. Look how the French have been doing it. It's insane. It's the illusion of you thinking you live in a free society. Ivan says, thank you for your super chat, by the way. And he is proud of our free speech. Stuck farmer. If you know, you know. Yep. He's been called out now for lying many times, the Prime Minister. Ivan also says they are trying to push folks to their limits. But the thing is, I think they are they're definitely misrepresenting what the farmers are talking about. I'm talking about the government themselves. But they're also misunderstanding. They don't understand the level of anger. They have looked historically into the mentality of British farmers and the farming community and the rural community in general. These are the people who always keep their head down. They're very polite. They care about their country, but they care about their community and everything else. But they tend not to cause chaos, apart from obviously the peasants' revolt. So they think that they could just keep them quiet, let them come out a little bit, but they think they shouldn't be scared of farmers. They are very complacent because farmers have been very polite. And some farmers think, as long as they stay polite and nice, then eventually the government will listen to them. This is exactly why the government continues to see the farmers like that. Like, look at them, they're so naive. They're going to come out, honk their horns, and then go home again. They think we listen to them. They're not going to listen to you. But again, it's not like they want to push their limits, but they're going to end up pushing them to their limits. Karen says, so Kjerdolf wants to go down the Canadian route. Strumming fingers on chin. Interesting. Yep. It's the same approach as the Canadian government. Farmers should cut off the food supply. Even if you just do it for like a week, then that could make a bigger difference. It will be very disruptive, obviously. But that's the point of any sort of protest movement or strike. And but that will send a bigger message. If you have a week of actual disruptions in shops and supermarkets, then also everybody else in the country will get it, because so many people in cities don't understand this. A lot of people in urban areas, they don't get it. The middle class liberal side, they're like, oh, these farmers are so spoiled. Until all the local Waitrose shops, then when they stop having shelves being packed, then they'll be like, oh, so this is the level of power that farmers have in this country. No farmers, no food. And someone else said, no food, no government. No food, no society. Cases that will get shocked if the government actually told the truth for a change. It's not the job of the government to tell the truth. It's just their job to run the country better. What? I have peace, love, and respect for all of mankind and aliens. Aliens' lives matter. Pixie says, just like the most of the general public, they are pushing the farmers to emptying the supermarkets of a produce. The public are behind them. The thing is, you're going to need more people in the country. And as I said, a huge chunk of the urban areas and cities, they just don't understand it. They just don't think of it as a big issue. Most of the things in countries like the UK is, if it doesn't really affect me, I tend not to care. Again, it's not everybody, not you guys, but there are a lot of people who still feel that way until it happens to them. Then they're like, oh, okay, now I care. But there's also a lot of people who it's not really their fault. They have a different worldview. If they are just your cosmopolitan middle classes in London or in Manchester, they haven't even met anybody from the farming community. They don't even know how the life of farming actually works. Then unless they watch 2CTV's documentary on the death of British farming, then they wouldn't be able to have any empathy. They won't be able to understand the urgency of this and the effect on their own lives. Because as we said, no farmers, no food. What are these numbers? A lot of people are putting numbers. Can someone tell me? I mean, usually when people are just answering in numbers is because, someone said, put 8 if you hate Keir Starmer. This is what we call a cyber protest, the keyboard warrior protest. Put numbers. It's at least it's peaceful, right? But yeah, let's see what else we have. What's 3? People are putting number 3 as well. Stop making it complicated. What's the third one? I will have to find out. Let me know, someone, what the question was for number 3. Kat says, how did Starmer get into office in the first place? General election, July 2024. A lot of people stayed at home, smaller turnout, and only 20% of the country voted for Starmer. That's how he got it. General election, that's how he did it. He seems to be a puppet for some other power. He's an idiot. Keir Starmer is an idiot. Yeah, where is the 8? Where is the H? What's going on? Alright, while someone tells me what's going on in the live chat, Kitty says farmers should go on strike, let them in government and see how it affects everyone. Even if you just do it for a few days, literally, just a week, and then everybody will have to talk about it, including the BBC. Okay, so no one's telling me what's going on with number 3. Everyone's putting number 3 for no reason now. Okay. Stop with the numbers. Oh, someone says 3 is to ban halal food. Priorities, love it. I finally at least got, why 3, why 8? Just come up with random numbers, I love it. Lauren says farming should be supported and cherished. They want to destroy everything for control. Think about farming and the when we're talking about farmers and the farming community, it's not really just about their farms. These guys are the foundation of the identity of a nation, the countryside. These are the people who look after the land, look after the countryside overall, and their own land, and their own, obviously, crops and animals and whatever they have. So these are the people who support their own community and each other's communities. These are the people who are able to keep the rural areas going strong despite lack of support from their centralized governments like in Westminster. These are the people who don't rely or depend on the state for handouts, and unless the government messes everything up with their stupid globalist policies, then the promise, and the government themselves promise, for example, things like subsidies, and then they remove the subsidies and they say, why are the farmers complaining? Well, you did that. If you bring down the taxes, if you bring down the regulations, and if you stop importing cheap produce from foreign countries when you can't do it here, then farmers won't even need subsidies. These people don't want to be dependent on anybody. The whole point of the countryside mentality and psychologically rural areas is that they want to be independent, they want to be free, and they want to care about the country. Simple as that. And they want to care about their family. It's not really rocket science. They are very different people to those in cities. Now, we got a new number now. Karen says type 666 if you agree to the deportation of Tutsi. Deport Tutsi TV, guys. That's the only way you can fix the country. Is anybody type 666? No, no one yet, but this person is now just copy and pasting, this Karen person, just copy and pasting the same comment. She's hoping somebody would type 666. Anybody, guys? Anybody wants to... She's now decided to type 666 herself to answer her own question. You can't answer your own question, Karen. Classic Karen. Come on. Anybody wants to help her out? Want to type 666 to make you feel good? No. You tried, Karen. You tried and failed. Someone trolled her. Misha says 667. I'm going to start something, Karen. You did this. I'm going to have to hit back. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want Karen to be deported, type 9. Number 9. Do it now. Just 9. 1 9. Let's see how many people type 9 and how many people would type 666 as Karen wanted. All right, 9 for Karen to be deported. While we wait for that... It's going to be fun. Ivan says that the farmers equal our heritage. That's the other part as well. In terms of the rural community and the families in countryside, they are the bastion of the identity and the heritage of any nation as well. Because they're still traditional minded people. That's why. Joshua says, smelly American here. When did Americans become smelly? I do not feel like I share any values with the European people anymore. Oh, yeah, well, you guys finally got it. Yeah, the American mentality. Always be proud of it. Oh my God, the 9s are coming. 9, in the words of Adolf from Austria. 999. Joe said 999. There's a lot of 9s coming, Karen. Karen, the public have spoken. Unfortunately, you are the weakest link. You will be deported. I've been subscribed since you had 100,000 subscribers or less. Fewer subs. Nice to see you grow so big, bro. That's what she said. Thank you very much for that. And The 9s are still coming. Someone said, what's with all the Germans? The Germans are here. The Germans are everywhere. We love the Germans. Peter says, I am vegan, but I 100% support the farmers. Well, yeah, I mean, they still also produce vegetables and fruits and everything else. It's not just meat. Because most people are not vegan and everyone has the right to eat what they choose. We must not become totally dependent on imported food. Well done, vegan Peter. Now, thank you for that. And Vinny says, eat the boat people. Is that supposed to say boat people or eat the boat, comma, people? I'm not eating the boat people. They're not tasty. Also, they're people. So basically from Daisy, thank you very much. Vinny seems to be hungry today. I would love to set up some kind of an immigration deal for Europeans that share my values. Well, that was done in the 1700s. Then obviously the Europeans who were different left the continent and helped create the United States of America. The problem with America is that in the 20th century, the new wave of Europeans that went there from the beginning of the 20th century, that's what caused issues in America. And you can see the result now. The American, as I've been ranting recently, people chose to go to North America and then obviously set up the United States of America. And obviously Canada as well, but different story. The whole point was nobody forced you to go there. And you knew if you fail, you die. Once America was built and became this leading nation, towards the end of the 19th century, beginning of 20th century, obviously now it's going to attract more people. So the new wave of Europeans from the beginning of 20th century and mid 20th century, these were the people who went there and they still had the European mentality. I expect free things. I want handout. I want free healthcare. I want this. If I lose my job, I want support. Stay in Europe. Nobody forced you to go to America. Now they've been trying to Europeanize the United States of America, and obviously now a lot of the Americans are fighting back, saying, "Whoa, we're not Europe. If you don't like it, stay in Europe. Nobody forces you to come here." But Europeanization of the US has been a massive issue, which started about 100 years ago, and you can see the result now over the last few decades. Now, Misha says, 9 to see you. To see you, 9. 9 to see you. Brilliant, Misha. Barbara says, farmers used to walk their livestock through the towns and villages, just sharing history with you. Yeah. Also, they're not allowed to bring livestock on Tuesday. The police will arrest them as well. So you can't bring anything anymore. Brian says, what good would the police do? Farmers just have to give them a bag of spuds for their as corrupt as Starmer. Rosa says, when Stalin seized power, he knew that control of food was indispensable to absolute authority. First, he seized the farmers' food and land to have control. Only then did he become the ruthless tyrant. That's how you start. Also, I just saw a comment by AFC Man UK. That was a very good comment. Where is it gone? Because it's relevant. European? No, I just spilled my drink. That reminds me, our American friend who made that comment earlier. For the record, the Brits are not European. We see ourselves as different to the Europeans. Nothing wrong with Europeans, but there's still a tiny bit of difference between the British and the Europeans as well. That's why there are also a difference in terms of the culture as well. So there is still less dependence in the UK than in big parts of Western Europe. Still have it, just not as bad. The numbers are still coming. Okay, this is the last time we're going to ask questions with answers in numbers because it's going to cause chaos. By the way, today is Sunday. In case you don't know, happy Sunday, 2nd of March, which means, you know what's happening, right? Oh yes, it's coming home. The final day for you to take advantage of our 10% discount of annual memberships on 2CTV Plus. Use the promo code DOC10 by going on, where is it? 2c.tv, or find the link in the description because we have our new documentary coming out tonight at 9 p.m. UK time. Groomed, presented and produced by Sammy Woodhouse, which you can see that, watch that on the website, and the app is coming soon as well, as you guys know. I've been saying that for some time now. Don't ask me when. Yeah, we can watch all this and all the other documentaries that we have on 2C TV Plus. Later tonight, hopefully, I'm gonna have Sammy Woodhouse live on YouTube to do a live show to talk about this upcoming documentary, which will be later tonight. And obviously, if you want to join us for the live chat, join us then. Let's take a break and come back with more updates, including what's going on with NATO and Ukraine. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.